All right, we're transitioning quickly here. If I can get the mumbles out of my mouth. Another primetime hearing last night. Gabriella Hoffman joins us from Fox News to talk about the latest primetime hearing in Trump's 187 minutes. Good morning, Gabriella.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Good. What did you make of last night's primetime display?
I caught a few of the highlights from Twitter, and it's interesting because it seems like this is the same kind of built-up anticipation for something super, super groundbreaking, and it kind of passes over, doesn't really change anything, doesn't really change anyone's mind on the urgency of responding to January 6th. I think most people see the process playing out. Some see it play out unfairly. People who are criminally trespassing are getting charged, but I think other important issues are resting on people's mind more so. That's why you're not really seeing much attention to January 6th apart from Twitter coverage and maybe a bit of fanfare in the Beltway and up through the Acela corridor to New York City. So,
it's funny you make the point, and I would say I probably would tend to agree with you. I feel like the case has been made against Trump. If I'm being honest, they've already convinced me that he just kind of didn't care and let that train run off the tracks on January 6th. I don't know what they're trying to prove now at this point. If you haven't convinced someone by now, can you convince them?
I don't think so. You should be able to make your argument very easily. Same in communications. If you are creating this well-produced show, and we know that there's a professional from ABC or one of the other big media outfits, former employee of a media outfit, and it's not having an effect. If you're trying to make something, effective, you're supposed to lay it out there, make it easy for people to understand, and you'd already have made your case very early on. But it doesn't seem to be the case because of how the committee is structured. It very much is weighted to the left. They claim that they've picked two Republicans, of course, but those two Republicans are not really the pulse of the current base of the Republican Party. So people see it as very inherently...
I'm sorry, what was that? We cut out. Very inherently...
The ultimate goal of the committee essentially is to damage whatever is left of there is to damage of President Trump, make him unattractive for 2024. And that's ultimately what I think the goal would be, maybe to convict him a third time. Will it work? We shall see.
You talked about a lot of the attention on last night's hearing being played out on Twitter. This isn't going to move much in the polls with where the country's at right now with gas prices, inflation, and everything else going on.
Certainly it won't, because you see that most of the priority rests on concerning about yourself about inflation, gas prices, and many other concerns. This falls nowhere on any polling that has been coming out recently. And so Democrats have to think and wonder if focusing on this really is going to get them more voters or not. And right now, like I said, what we're seeing in the polls, we don't see any indication that this is having an effect, that this is just merely something for Democrats to concern themselves about, and a few select Republicans who are very much out of favor with where the party is going to assuage their concerns and see what happens, perhaps have an impact on the midterms. But I think this won't have much of an effect whatsoever.
I have to say that maybe last night's testimony didn't really sway anybody, but I will say that I know of folks who are, dyed-in-the-wool Republicans who definitely say that this has changed their opinion on the proceedings. Not on the proceedings, on the event. So maybe not last night's testimony, but over the past, couple of months, I will say that I do know some people who've been converted.
Perhaps there are a handful, and you guys are in New York, so maybe that could be one of the blips of rare exceptions of where that's happening in a handful of places. But I travel across the country, and when I talk to people and I ask them what concerns them most, you do not hear the January 6th committee at all. But certainly some people may be affected by the proceedings. Of course, it happens. But I think most of the country is not really following it as closely as some are.
Fair point. While we've got you on the line, let me ask you, because this is obviously they want to discourage or make it harder for Trump to run in 2024 if he decided to run. If you could put a percentage on it, what do you think the percentage is that Trump runs for president in 2024? I also want to ask you, because there's been some reporting on this over the last couple of days, and she's making appearances. What do you think the chances are that Michelle Obama runs for president in 2024? So Trump first, then Michelle.
I think it's hard to wager the percent. I think it's a 50-50% if I'm being honest and offering a conservative estimate. A lot of worry, though, is if he announces before the midterm and some of his candidates win, some of his candidates lose, it could have actually a pretty bad effect. That's what actually even Republicans who are generally supportive of him worry about. They want him to wait until after the midterm, but people, increasingly what I'm hearing on the Republican side, don't want him to announce pre-midterm because if he does something, it could have an impact adversely for Republicans' chances going into the midterm. So we'll see when he announces. I think it's 50-50. We have heard we've heard chatter about the former First Lady wanting to run. She says she does not like politics, that she was very flustered spending time in the White House. She felt kind of suffocated living there after 8 years, according to different reporting. She has a new book out. Certainly there's always fanfare attached to any big movement that political players, especially on the left, have, especially former First Ladies. So I think the discussions are being rehashed because of her new book. I'm not sure if she runs. I think Hillary Clinton more so is kind of indicating that she may run again. She just posted a cryptic tweet of her from 1992 as First Lady. So I think we have to worry more so about her running again over the other former First Lady, Michelle Obama. And
in your estimate, the chances the current president throws his hat back in the ring? It's got to be less than 10%, right?
I can't really put a percentage on it, but a lot of Democrats are writing, and a lot of publications that have largely been in support of him, New York Times, other legacy media, have urged him not to run, given some of his health concerns, and his age is now a big factor. So even Democrats are wanting someone else to run by all indications that we're seeing now from reporting and also just commentary writing. So I think his chances of running again are a lot slimmer, maybe 25%.
All right. She is a political columnist with Town Hall, an award-winning writer, a gun rights policy expert, and, of course, a commentator joining us here this morning, Gabriella Hoffman. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
All right. That is, as I mentioned, Gabriella Hoffman joining us, a guest from Fox News. And, Christine, I want to say I actually agree with your point that you made. I think I am in the Gabriella called it a handful of Republicans, but I think I would say I'm in the group of people who watched some of the January 6th evidence or the videos, and I know they were produced, and it kind of gave me a different feel about the way the president handled January 6th and his hesitation to come out.
It's interesting, and I really didn't want to be argumentative with her, but, most of the folks, I didn't want to correct her because she doesn't know that I'm in North Carolina. But I think that's what's most surprising to me is that I am in North Carolina, which tends to lean more conservative, definitely more conservative than New York, although one could argue that almost all of the 50 states lean more conservative than New York, almost all. But the other surprise for me was Mississippi. I have a lot of connections and contacts in Mississippi, and that is a very red state. And I know more than a handful of people who have changed their minds there. I will not say that they have changed their political persuasion, but they've definitely changed their minds on former President Trump. One person had said to me that he loved the man and thought that he could do no wrong, and now thinks that there is actually something amiss there, intellectually or mentally, after seeing the January 6th hearings. He said he didn't want to watch the hearings. He thought that they were a bunch of nonsense. They thought they were a Democratic ploy. And like you said, a well-produced theater or theatrical presentation of a political event. And he did watch the hearings and says that his mind was changed. So I do think that there is more than a handful. The issue is I don't think it's a very vocal handful because not many people want to say, yeah, I've changed my mind. Yeah. So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's nice to see that. I think that there might be a return in this country to more civil political discourse because the world is running amok. And I think that a lot of people are recognizing the fact that we need to sit down at a common table. We need to adopt more civil discussion, and that perhaps the methodology adopted by the former president was not the best for the country.
Yeah, and I'll say this. While I do think I have been shown some things that changed my mind in these public hearings, these primetime hearings, I do agree with Gabriella's point at the same time that it's not the most pressing issue for me right now. You know what I mean? Although my mind might have changed on that, I'm not going, it's the, as they say, the dinner table things. Gas, jobs, economy, energy, all these things that I think a lot of Democrats would say they wished Biden had done better with.
Absolutely.